Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. The former WBO light flyweight and undisputed minimum weight champion SENIESA Estrada has decided to retire. She announced her retirement a couple of days ago. She finishes with 26 wins and 9 KOs, no draws, no defeats. She's 32 years old. She's been boxing since she was 8 years old, so she predates this current renaissance in women's boxing. And she's been an exceptional fighter. There's no doubt about it. Very petite lady, 5'2", minimum weight. She says she could have hung around and defended her undisputed titles, but she really felt it was time to go. But when you've done something since you were a kid, of course, it's difficult to give it up totally. It's the old line about athletes dying 2 deaths, the athletic death where they can't do what they used to be able to do as well. And then, of course, you have the mortal death that we all die. But the question is, what are you going to do between the two? How are you going to fill that space? She got married earlier this year to Chris Mannix, the reporter. He does some of the top rank shows, I think, for boxing. I would never have put those together. What they say about opposites attracting. So she's got that. She's got a new marriage. Might want to have kids, There's a whole world out there outside of boxing. But as a fighter, she was very good, and she does retire undefeated. And recently, she unified. Her last fight, actually, was against a very talented lady called Yocosta Vale. She won a unanimous decision, deservedly so. That meant she collected all 4 minimum weight belts, and this is the time to bow out. And I think that's a really good attitude to have. Because even though, you're tempted to go on, you've got to know when the time to bow out is right. And in other words, you've got to know when the right time is to go, which isn't necessarily the time that you want to go. And it's not necessarily the easiest decision, but you think, okay, now's the decision. It's like when Lennox Lewis had that, struggle with Vitaly Klitschko. After that, he said, no more, because he couldn't quite do what he did previously, and he said, I've had enough of this. So he retired. He'd avenged both his defeats. He'd been undisputed champ. What more is there to do? And I suppose at 32, still a very young woman, SENIESA Estrada is. So, go away and you live your life. I wish her nothing but the very best. I mean, she beat other good women apart from Vale. She beat Tina Ruprecht, who at the time was undefeated. That was for, I think, WBC and WBA belts at minimum weight. And she also holds the quickest ever female world title knockout, which was against Miranda Adkins in July 2020. 7 seconds. The referee obviously dispensed with the count. The bell went. Estrada walked over to Adkins, who stepped out of her corner by the ropes, and she just got flattened. And she was out cold. And so it was a 7-second knockout. Now, Adkins I don't think she's fought yet. She came in with a 5-0 record. This was at light fly, so one weight division up. She hasn't fought since. And if you looked at the 5 wins, 4 of them were against debutantes who never had a fight in their life. And she also beat a 0-2 girl. So somehow she ended up fighting Estrada. And as they say, there are levels to this game, in case you hadn't noticed. And that's like putting a rank amateur in with a world-class fighter. But, you got to give Estrada credit because when she started fighting, it was she turned pro in 2011, so 13 years ago. Boxing, the professional game, hadn't quite taken off then for the women. It's only in the last, I suppose, with the advent of Clarissa Shields and Katie Taylor, they're the two that have done it on the respective sides of the Atlantic. But there wasn't any money in it. And Estrada gave a very, very emotional interview to Top Rank's Christina Poncha. And she was very, very open. She said that the struggle was from the word go, just to make a living, which is the same for male boxers as well. It's not just the women. When you start out, if you haven't got a promoter or, manager with connections or whatever, you're going to struggle. And she did, but she gradually worked her way up. She was very complimentary towards Top Rank and Bob Arum, said they were the ones that gave her the opportunity. They paid her very well, which is great to hear. She said there was a temptation to carry on because she could have made even more, good money, but she didn't, because money ain't everything. And I think she also talked about her mental health and the fact that towards the end of her career, the last few years, she was suffering quite badly because she's always had physical issues. She's got a slight curvature of the spine, which she's had since she was a little girl. And that means that doing a lot of the drills can bring out the pain. And if you've ever had back pain, which I've had, I'm sure many of you have, it's not a place to be. It's a horrible thing. To have to overcome that when it goes back to childhood, I think it was a birth thing. And also, she said she'd recently had an operation on her finger because it was busted up. And as you know, there are so many little bones in the hands and so many nerves and ligaments, everything. It's all, once your hands start breaking down, that's not a good thing. And she said it affected her mentally. She said that there were times when she could only get to sleep by drinking a bottle of wine. Well, that's a big big alarm bell right there. When you're drinking a bottle of wine just to get to sleep, that's definitely not the way to, they call it self-medicating. That's an expression I hate, but it doesn't mean that you're an addict. Some people abuse alcohol and drugs, but they're not necessarily addicts. They can sort of give it up. They say, okay, hang on a minute, this is getting a bit much now, I need to stop. Okay, and SENIESA seems to be one of those people who recognised it and said, okay, enough's enough, and did stop. But ultimately that means you accept that you need to make adjustments in your life and move on. But you have to fill in that gap. And in the case of someone who's done something since they were 8 years old, that's a very, very wide gap. The analogy, I used to work in the drug and alcohol field with people who are addicted to all sorts of things, alcohol, crack, heroin, whatever. And one of the analogies used to be, I always used to say to whenever I'd run groups or anything, was if you have let's say you have a garden which is overgrown, there's weeds everywhere, there's, dead tree, dogs and cats have been shitting in it, and there's, the little water, it's water flooded with stagnant water. And what you got to do is with this garden is you got to clear all the crap out and cultivate it and turn it into a proper nice garden. You might plant flowers, you might put a nice little bird bath, bit of an ornament, have a little stream running through it, whatever. But you make the garden nice. But then what you got to do? You've got to maintain it, okay? So you've got to fill it. You've got to work at filling it, making it a nice garden, and then you've got to maintain it. Or the weeds come back, the flowers die, they rot, and so on. So there is no ultimate end game. It's just a case of constantly doing it again and again and again. And this is what addicts have to do, because if ever you meet people in recovery, very often they're the fittest people you've ever met, because they've been running, they've been cycling, they've filled that gap in their lives that for so long was the addiction of alcohol, drugs, or both, with something positive, and they keep doing it. They've still got that addictive mentality, so they keep doing it. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying SENIESA ESTRADA is an addict. I'm not saying that at all. But even with her case, if you've suddenly started relying on something negative, and you recognise that and get rid of it, you've got to fill it with something good. And so I hope she does that. I think she will do it. The way she was talking, she sounded very positive. She's taking acting lessons. And she's, like I say, she's got married, so maybe she wants to have kids. They want to start a family, her and her husband. Good luck to her. She's been a terrific fighter, a terrific servant to the sport. Her father, I believe, trained her. Did very well, obviously. And she is one of those fighters who will inspire future generations of girls who are interested in boxing to take the sport on and hopefully achieve something that's similar to what she's achieved, or maybe even more. It's the old standing on the shoulders of giants line, isn't it? So yeah, SENIESA Superbad Estrada. That was her nickname, Superbad. Good little fighter. Wish her nothing but the very best for the future. And retired undefeated. She kept that 0. Well done, girl. Well done. Anyway, Let me know what you think. What did you think of SENIESA's career? What were your favourite fights of hers? I thought the Varley fight was good. Like I said, the Ruprecht fight, I watched that. That was a good one. I remember the 7-second knockout. That was barely a fight. Blink and you missed it, literally. Annabelle Ortiz, she beat Annabelle Ortiz as well, 31-3 at the time. That was a good win. She had lots of good wins. Marlon Esparza, she won a unanimous technical decision over 10. And I remember that fight. That was back in 2019, 2020, early 2020, something like that. And Marlon Esparza is a good fighter. She was undefeated at the time. She's a very good fighter. So SENIESA fought the very best and deserves the status. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about her career, the lady herself. All your comments will be appreciated. Thanks for listening. Please hit the like button if you like the video. And if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be a big help for us because we want to build the channel up. Much appreciated. I always appreciate your comments, your time, all the support you give the channel. You're not a bad bunch, are you? Good stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.